Greetings, welcome to another video. Today we're talking about Aquarius Svamsa. Gemini gives the results, maker of ponds / tanks / things related to shores. Now before we jump into what Gemini's talking about and the symbols related to these, let's discuss how to find the Svamsa if you don't already know. It's actually a very easy sign to find in your chart. The first thing you do is find the Atmakaraka planet, the planet with the highest degrees in any sign in your natal chart. Then we find out what sign that planet falls in the Navamsa chart, which is the 9th divisional chart. So let's use a quick example. Say you have Mercury as your Atmakaraka. It's at 26 degrees, 34 minutes in your natal chart in Cancer. So this is the planet that is going to be informing your consciousness, your soul's expression in this life to the greatest degree. You can say that this is a very mercurial person. You see, if you use the chart in the description of this video, you can find out what sign Mercury falls in the Navamsa. And that's going to be, if you follow on the left-hand side, you see Cancer, follow it to the right, you'll see it falls in that second to last category, Aquarius. So that, another way to say it is that Mercury is in Aquarius in your Navamsa, and it's the most important sign you can say in your entire chart, because this is the sign that's going to show you the overall themes and obstacles in your unique path in life, in the challenges that you face living out your true vision for a fulfilling life. So when Gemini is telling us that Aquarius, that if your Svamsa is Aquarius, your biggest challenge is maker of ponds, tanks, things related to shores. It's a very cryptic statement, and of course, Gemini is expecting us to use our intuition and our intelligence to derive deeper and deeper meanings from his very short sentences. And it's somewhat paradoxical in a sense, because astrology is a language, and it's an art of explaining, and it's an art of talking to a client and describing the inner psychological difficulties not excess, but to a great deal, speaking a lot with a person, but he's only using very short sentences. So he really wants us as astrologers and as pursuers of learning astrological knowledge to really use our intelligence and our intuition to derive deep meaning. So before we dive into Gemini, let's talk about the traditional symbol of Aquarius. It is a man pouring out water from a jug. And the first theme we see here is the theme of water. And when I first would just know a little bit about astrology, I always thought Aquarius was a water sign because of the water of the jug. And of course, we have now Gemini referencing water again. But of course, Aquarius is an air sign. And there's a part of the symbol that we have to look into, a man pouring out water. It leaves the jug empty. It's then filled with air. So, but what does the water mean in this? In astrology, water means emotions. So the first part of the symbol, we can see that Aquarius is something to do with our emotional life. And that these people with an Aquarius Svamsa have their emotions are an important part of their experience. But it's that experience of pouring out one's emotion, divulging one's emotions to the point that they can feel empty inside. So this is telling us that these people have this challenge of giving water, of giving themselves, expressing their emotions, but which can make them feel empty inside, and they feel like there's something missing. No matter how much they give of themselves, of their effort or of their emotions, they're left with the sense that there's something lacking within themselves. And of course, the ruler of Aquarius is Saturn, and Saturn is that planet that makes us feel that there's an area in our life that we're just not good at, and it's an area in life that we're not good at. It's where we're limited. And you can think of Saturn in a way kind of like a bully. At least in the early part of life, or Saturn as an unhealthy Saturn. It's like a bully, not in the bully that picks on other kids, but the bully that picks on ourselves. And of course, we know bullies that pick on other kids, they feel an inner lack of confidence. They feel an insecurity within themselves, so they lash out at other people. and they hurt other people. Well, that's because inside they feel hurt. They're inadequate in some way, that there's something missing, that they have that there is some kind of, there's a need that they don't know how to fill. And that is a very much Aquarian experience, that there's a need we have within us that is not filled, and we're looking to outside sources to fill in that need, that inner need for self-acceptance and to have a confidence to us that naturally flows out of us. So Aquarian Svamsa individual is going to have that kind of theme of self-doubt and theme of that there's something that they need to fill within themselves, and the pursuit of trying to fill that inner sense of that vacuousness inside of them. And that can give all these types of different expressions. And one of them is, in a healthy way, you can think of it as a person who's very altruistic, a person who likes to give to other people and is generous, and a person who wants to pour themselves out for the benefit of other people. These are the kind of people that are they're the activist type of person. They see the outside world and the needs of the outside world, and they give their time and energy to help other people. And they're pouring themselves out to other people. But on the negative side of that, an unhealthy Aquarius Svamsa is when you lose your individuality, your own sense that you have needs as well, and that you lose yourself in the group identity, and that you end up feeling empty and you're just a small part in a big group, and that can cause the sense of feeling isolated from yourself, and that you're not allowing yourself to receive from other people. You're always concerned with giving, and that the receiving part isn't important. And that's an unbalanced and unhealthy Aquarius. Everyone needs to receive things as well. It's not always about giving to other people. That self-sacrificing can cause a person to lose trust and lose confidence in other people because of the sense that they were taken advantage of. They weren't appreciated because they were saying yes to other people and not saying yes to their own needs enough. So giving to excess and not really looking towards yourself as an individual with needs as well. Losing yourself in the needs of other people is a very important theme to Aquarius Svamsa. And so that inner sensation of lack that Saturn is giving, that kind of inner bully that can cause a person to feel a great amount of self-doubt, excessive analysis of oneself, the fear-based emotions of seeing that I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to survive, and feeling this kind of tightness and sense of inner scarcity. This sensation that Saturn can give and what Aquarius Svamsa individuals can have, it can cause certain idiosyncrasies to develop in their personality, where their behavior doesn't make sense to outside people because of its tendency to become self-destructive. Like a person who's, like I said, sacrificing too much to the detriment of themselves. And it can make outside people say, what is this person doing? They're on this path of self-destruction. And what this, as I said, is based on is an inner sense that they're missing something. And how are they going to fill that hole in themselves? And what are they going to fill that hole with? So this is why Aquarius is the sign of alcoholism and substance abuse, because of the inner sense that there's something missing, and they need that inner sense of self-doubt, lack of self-confidence, not being confident with oneself as an individual. They want to fill that missing part up with them with a temporary fix. And you'll see that people with Aquarius Svamsa, they'll have this kind of inner battle going on of wanting to fill themselves, and the easy way out is for drug use and drinking. And you're going to see this kind of addictive potential for a person with Aquarius. Not every person with Aquarius is going to be an addict of some sort. There's other factors in the chart, but when that sense of inner vacuousness takes hold, people will often look for a quick fix, and that's why it can become this sign of addiction, and specifically alcohol. And I'm going to go through quite a few examples of celebrities that really show what I'm talking about, these symbols. And one is, to start with, is Eugene O'Neill. Eugene O'Neill was one of the best, greatest playwrights in America in the 20th century. And all of his work has this theme of missing something in your life. And there's a really great heaviness to Eugene O'Neill's work. He worked himself to the bone, almost literally. In his last days, he couldn't even write anymore. He had such pain in his hand. And he really is seeking to fill the inner void and the inner lack, specifically with this family life, caused him to write these really intense, heavy plays. And most of them had a huge theme of alcoholism related. One of his major masterpieces, The Iceman Cometh, it takes place in a bar with these drowsy old alcoholics, and it has that theme, that overriding theme of trying to fill in an inner void through alcohol. And his last major work, Long Day's Journey into the Night, again, this theme of the sense of failure within a family context, and there was something missing, and that the way that the family members were treating one another, there were always some kind of fault at play, and they all felt hurt and wronged in different ways. And that comes from his inner sense that there was something always wrong with himself and the way he treated other people. And he used work as a way to try to fill in that missing hole, and he poured out his emotions to an incredible length. They're extremely heavy plays, and you can think that he was addicted to his own suffering, and that is what happens when Aquarius Svamsa. Of course, he had Aquarius Svamsa, but that's what can happen as a person is so aware of the inner hole inside themselves that they can be so prone to depression and that suffering, and that's just a matter of fact of life. We just have to slog through life. And that's the hyper awareness of that missing part of themselves. And so suffering becomes this major theme, and it can lead to severe depression if it's not looked at realistically and looked at with a sense of lightness, like, oh, I'm not good at this, or this was wrong, but, well, you know what? I have to deal with these inner doubts in a practical way, and not try to fill in my doubts with addictive behaviors that lead to destruction and destructive behaviors, destroying yourself, and then can have negative effects on the people in your life. Another interesting case is Pablo Picasso. You look at Picasso, the most famous painter of the 20th century. He almost single-handedly created modernism through his vision, through Cubism and Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, his famous painting. His vision changed all of art history, and he was a living legend in his own time. He has an Aquarius Svamsa, and if you read the book by one of his wives, she was, I think, 30 or 40 years old. She was 30 or 40 years younger than he was. They got together when he was 60. Her name was Françoise Guillot, and she wrote a book called Life with Picasso. It's a very great book if you're interested in art history and kind of who this guy was. He was not a gentleman, I would put it lightly, and he was known for his very rude treatment of women, and he was very cruel to her. One thing she said, which was, when I read it, I thought, wow, you wouldn't expect that, is that every morning he woke up and he thought his work meant nothing. He thought that he was no good as an artist, and that he had intense amounts of self-doubt. Every morning he would mope around and have this kind of acute awareness, inner awareness of this lack of value to himself. And we're talking about one of the most famous artists in the world at the time. He was a major figure. And he himself, you wouldn't think Picasso suffered from lack of confidence, but he did. And that comes from his Aquarius Svamsa, this very acute awareness of your insecurities caused by Saturn, that inner bully. And so, well, she said that by midnight every night he was painting away, and he was like a flower that bloomed by the end of the night. So he found his groove as the day went on, but every day he was faced with this inner torment of his own lack of worth. And that comes from that kind of self-doubt, that inner awareness of missing something, and what do I fill that hole with? Well, he found a constructive way to do it through his artwork, through his creativity, through his painting. And there are other examples. Hugh Hefner, sex addict until the end, person that was filling in an inner lack, a hole of not having enough love in his life, true deep love. He filled it with having as many women around him as possible. He was addicted to sex and exploiting women, Aquarius Svamsa. And also Johnny Cash, the musician, another great American artist, but who suffered throughout his whole life, drug addict, alcoholic, and who his work is characterized by an incredible heaviness to it. And that sense that there's a huge burden on his back, and this inner agonizing of missing things, and missing a true self-respect, and wanting to fill in that inner hole of deep, intense longing for self-love. He filled that hole with drugs and alcohol, and had an addictive personality in that way. But again, it comes from that inner lack, and it comes so Aquarius Svamsa can cause that intense suffering in an individual. And he's a person who had that kind of downcast darkness to him. And that's a major theme of Aquarius Svamsa. So the theme of that is to be aware, but not overly aware to the point of self-abuse, and not beating yourself up to such a great degree, and be able to fill that inner hole with something that is productive to yourself and to the rest of society, ideally to help other people as well. Okay, so now let's talk about the Gemini results. So there's a lot we can take from that symbol of the man pouring water with the empty jug. Well, Gemini says first, maker of ponds. So a pond is a reservoir, or someone that makes a place where water can be drawn, like a well. So he's talking about watering holes, a communal reservoir. So then now we're seeing the aspect of Aquarius as a person who is concerned about the needs of other people, and the desire to make and do something where other people can benefit from, benefiting the greater whole, and the group context, the awareness of other people, and how making a pond or making a place where people can, how other people can benefit in general. So this is where one of the most common terms used for Aquarius is a humanitarian. And so you see that Gemini is referencing this. A person who has this genuine desire to help other people. At least that's a healthy Aquarius expression. Someone that sees the needs of others and has this desire to work for other people and to do good for other people. So this really is a major theme of Aquarius Svamsa. It's the idea of conforming to groups and to see yourself as a part of a group, and how is that affecting your own individuality. And it can be summed up by saying, what is my relationship to my self-validation? We're talking all about how self-doubts and depression can creep in when we're not validating ourselves. And a way that can play out is seeking validation from a larger group if you're not self-validating. So there needs to be a balance between these two experiences. Seeking for other people to say, yeah, he's doing good in life and he's helpful to other people in the world. And also looking at yourself and saying, this is good because I alone feel that it's good. Those are two extremes. People can lose themselves in a group, and they can lose themselves in themselves. And so when you lose yourself in yourself, can become a self-obsession. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, how a person can become so obsessed with themselves that they end up looking at themselves as the only thing that's important, and that they end up rebelling from everybody else. But first, let's discuss how being validated from groups can become, a person can lose the sense of their own individuality. They think that all they need is for other people to accept them. And this is a major experience of Aquarius Svamsa, losing oneself in the identity of a collective identity. And so here, there's an interesting Svamsa person is John Lennon. John Lennon with the Aquarius Svamsa, he was a person who was a drug addict, a heroin addict, and he was a person who was much more unhappy in his after the Beatles broke up, and even while the Beatles were together. And there was a deep yearning inside of him, and he had a kind of an apathy to him as well. But he was in the throes of drug addiction. But his Aquarius Svamsa, one of the songs that he's most known for, the song Imagine. Now, there is some people that say he didn't write that song, but that song, when you just read the lyrics, it's a nice, beautiful song as it's sung. You read the lyrics, and one of the major criticisms of it is that, well, that sounds like this communist utopia. Imagine there's no heaven, there's no hell. Imagine we're all one. And there's this kind of superficial message to it that says, let's just all get along, and let's just all see that there is no difference between me and you. Yeah. But it's so impractical that the merging of everybody into one, and that there's no countries, there's no differentiation between people. That's exactly what communism is. It's when there's a small elite that rules the mass, and the mass is all treated as one. And so John Lennon was not a communist as far as I'm aware, but that song had that effect of saying that your individual life, it can just be merged with everyone else's life. There's no differences whatsoever. That's not a way to promote a positive society, because everyone is completely unique. Nobody is special, but everyone is unique, and everyone has a role to play. So on the one hand, when you have this unbalanced Aquarius or this unhealthy Aquarius Svamsa, it's this excessive, the negation of differences, and that no one is different, and that we should all just, it's the merging of group identity, that putting people into clean categories. It can be useful in some ways, but in other ways it's totally, it negates each person's unique life and their unique need to be a unique person and live their own life. So you have that excessive group identity. And when a person with Aquarius is unhealthy, they'll want to forget about their own problems, their own needs, and think that the group is going to validate them. And that is a total way of, it's a recipe for disaster, essentially, when you conform to excess. And that's an Aquarius Svamsa difficulty. Then you have let's say Francis Ford Coppola, Aquarius Svamsa. This is an individual who shows a more healthier way of understanding group identity. He was known for the Godfather films to start, but his other films. But something that he did was he really involved his family a lot in the making of his films, and he brought family members into his own films. And you could call it nepotism, but when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense to involve your own clan, or to have a strong identity as a family and as a group of people that has similar interests. And so he's an individual that had, to this day, has a very strong sense that family is the strongest unit that we can create as individuals, where we can live sustaining, mutually beneficial lives. So having a conformist identity in the context of a smaller group of your family is a way that you can have that balance of, this is my job in the family, this is this person's job in the family, when we all have a unique role, but we all have this identity as a family. So that's one positive way that you can have this communal identity, this Aquarian need to feel a part of a group and not just an isolated, lonely individual. You don't want that experience. You want to have a balance between identifying with a group and having your own identity within the group. That's the key to this whole discussion. And the other it's interesting, but it's a deep message, but it's on the surface, it's a bit confusing. It's Groucho Marx, the silent movie era, and then the comedian Groucho Marx. His most famous quote is, "I don't want to belong to any group that would accept me as a member, So on the surface, it's this self-depreciating, self-hatred almost. And you could say, oh, well, that's a very Aquarian thing. He has this deep hatred of himself, and he doesn't love himself. And he has this kind of negative perspective looking at, I don't want to be a part of your group because you would accept someone like me. So it's like calling yourself a bad person or like a useless person." But then when he said that, he was complaining to a group because he thought he was better than the members of the group. And so people have commented upon this saying as saying that he was a person that appreciated different people getting along, and he didn't want to be in a group where everyone was the same. So he wanted to be a part of a group where everyone had a unique contribution to the group. I don't want to belong to a club where I'm a member. I want to belong to a club where there's people different than me all around. So through learning about other people's individuality, people who self-validate, and people who see themselves as unique individuals, being a part of a group who have that healthy sense of I'm a different person and I can contribute because I'm different. And I have something unique to give to the world. And that's a really healthy expression of Aquarius Svamsa, to not lose yourself in the group identity, but still have a desire to belong to a group. And that group doesn't have a bunch of conformists within it. People who are rule followers, you could say. And so that self-validation and the group identity is a really major theme for Aquarius Svamsa and how that plays out healthily or unhealthy in your life. So now we have Gemini saying maker of tanks, so things that hold water essentially, but it can hold other things. So vessels that hold liquids. And these can be people that enjoy aquariums. I know one individual has a strong Aquarius in his chart in general. Doesn't have Aquarius Svamsa, but there was a period of life when he was running in an Aquarius period of his life where all of a sudden he had 5-6 fish tanks in his house and loved taking care of these tanks. So these results can be literal as well. But the maker of tanks is someone the meaning of that is someone who makes things that are useful for other people. And so having a utility to your contribution to the world, having that authentic, someone that makes pottery, things that have this usefulness to them, and the need to feel that you're contributing. So the challenge for the Aquarius Svamsa is being a valuable contributor. And these vessels that hold water, you can think of almost nothing more important than having something to hold water. So there's an essential nature, how do we drink the water? We could just use our hands to cup the water from a pond, but vessels that hold water keep life moving in a very practical manner. And even plumbing. Plumbing is one of the reasons why life expectancy has gone up over the past 150 years. People don't really attribute it to plumbing. That is a tank in a sense. It is a tank, piping that holds water, fresh water that can be brought into your house, and taking out the wasteful water. It's a very Saturnian job working with waste. And as I said, it's one of the reasons why life expectancy has gone up, because there were so many diseases when you don't have running water, running clean water. Diseases fester in waste. So there you see another theme of having something totally essential, a role in society, something that is completely useful. And feeling inside of you, the Aquarian challenge is what I'm doing even helpful to other people? Is what I'm doing even helpful to myself? There's going to be this need to feel that your life is valuable and has worth to it, and that there's a practical utility to what you're doing. So this is a very important part of an Aquarius Svamsa. And Saturn, the ruler, is such a practical planet. on the ground, makes sense, that works, and that's something that I can use in daily life. I can figure out how to do it and forget about it and don't have to keep thinking about it. How much of us have to think about plumbing until it goes wrong in our house? It's an extremely important aspect of survival. In just basic survival needs is quality plumbing. So Aquarius Svamsa having a very useful and practical attribute to their life is what I'm doing useful. So the last part of Gemini's description, things related to shores. Now this is very interesting. So things related to shores, all of the signs in Vedic astrology, they represent an area of the world. For example, the sign Virgo is a mountaintop. The opposite sign Pisces is the ocean. And we can derive different meanings through all of the different places that the signs that they rule over, and that is the symbol of each sign, Cancer, running water, etc. Aquarius is an island, and we have Gemini giving us a theme. He's referencing this as part of the Vedic tradition, things related to shores. So islands, it's surrounded by water. And first, Gemini is saying related to shores. So you can think of that as a person that's sitting on a shore. These people might live in tropical places. With an Aquarius Svamsa, these people might enjoy being near shores, near large bodies of water. But when you're on the shore, you're looking out to the majesty of creation, and you have that response of either, wow, I'm just a small part in this beautiful creation. Look at how vast the world is. The other unhealthy response is, I'm so small I can't do anything about it. There's nothing I can do to change the world. Nothing I do makes any difference. The world just keeps going. So you see those two responses when you're sitting on a shore. Seeing yourself as just one small part of a large creation at play. So that's a theme of Aquarius Svamsa. What, as my individual part in this vast world we live in this vast realm, am I doing well? My little role, is it doing well? Or I'm a big famous person, I'm a big personality. When they sit on the shore, wow, like it puts a person in their place. And is my self-upset, if a person has this self-obsessive quality, can they bring themselves to feel more humble when they're in front of such a large creation? So that's something that is necessary, that kind of humility, that you are just a small part in a vast creation, no matter how big and important person you are. But then on the other side, on an unhealthy way, is feeling pessimistic about it. There's nothing I can really do faced with the vastness of existence. But let me go back to that the islands idea. So when you're on an island, you have finite resources, and especially if it's salt water around you in an ocean. The island has only a certain amount of resources. And what comes to the theme is, what do I do if I'm on an island? How do I conserve the resources on the island in a sustainable way? And this idea of this limitedness that Saturn gives, this sense of inner limitedness, but a Aquarius Svamsa person is going to have the sense, they have this lifelong theme of understanding what scarcity is, and that we are living in a world where a resource can run out at any time, and therefore we need to have the mindset of conservation. So this is the other most common term used for Aquarius in general is environmentalist. And that can be shown through the island metaphor. When you're on that island, how well are you using the resources at your disposal? And the abuse of the natural world will have an immediate effect on your ability to survive on that island. And so these people will have a kind of a frugalness to them. They also have a very strong interest in nature and the need to protect nature, the need to understand nature, and to become one with nature. And nothing will make you do that faster than when you're stuck on an island without a way to get off the island. How do I work together with a finite amount of resources at my disposal? So the negative side of that sensation of feeling of an island is the sense of isolation. And an Aquarius Svamsa person can feel that they're misunderstood, that society rejects them, that they can't get along well with others, that they're in their own world, but it makes them feel that that they're not connecting well with other people. They feel like they're on an island, they're cut off, and they feel exiled. And that's based on the Saturnian qualities of feeling of lack, but there's that distinct feeling of I don't know what I can do as an individual. I feel too different from other people. And that's what can cause the rebelliousness that I was mentioning earlier. A person with Aquarius Svamsa, when they feel that they don't relate to anyone in society, they'll end up rebelling and only rely on their own self-validation, and that what they want to do is the most important, it trumps all. And that rebelliousness, it's totally ignoring the inner need we have to receive approval from other people. We don't want to be living on an island our whole life. We don't want to cut ourselves off from other people and have that sense that we're completely separated from everyone no matter what. That's the opposite of the communism idea. The extreme communism of the John Lennon Imagine song, that there is no separation between people at all, to the extreme sense of separation. And one individual is Steve McQueen, the actor, high major risk taker, rebelled against all the rules of society, and that sense that there's no getting around it. I only care about myself. And that's that self-obsessive quality that feeling on an island can be. I only need to worry, I'm in my own space and I'm only in my own zone, and I don't have to worry about anyone else. That ultimately is an unhealthy expression of an Aquarius Svamsa. We need to understand that we are inseparable from other people, and other people are going to play an important role in our life to teach us things. That validation from other people helps us understand not just validation from other people, but other people in general teaches us about who we are, so we can become more fulfilled versions of ourselves. The painter Edgar Degas, he said, he had a quote, "The artist must live alone, and his private life must remain unknown." There you have another example of an artist who saw the importance of isolating oneself for the purpose of creating a creative body of work that has a very specific vision, your own vision. So he was another example of Aquarius Svamsa, who he wanted to leave himself, put himself right on his own little island. He was content there. Now, that can be, some people are meant to be reclusive and they need to be reclusive, and that's what Aquarius can do. As long as that sensation is not based on the inner feeling of the lack of validation from other people, and that lack of validation push yourself away from others. And a person that has a healthy sense of validation, like Degas, a very highly respected artist in his time, one of the forerunners of Impressionism as an art style, people loved his art and he was well respected. But he chose to live alone. He didn't rely on the validation of other people, but he could receive the validation. He had the healthy sense of wanting to express what he wanted to express and making sure that he could do that in solitude. That's a nice, healthy expression of it, and he was a very successful person. So as you can see, these themes, this importance of the balance between understanding I'm a unique individual, but I'm not going to self-isolate because I'm afraid of what other people are going to look at me as, and rebelling and rebelling for the sake of rebelling. A rebel without a cause. It's better to be a rebel with a cause, a rebel who has something meaningful to show society, and not just a rebel just because you feel so misunderstood and cut off. That's a path to self-destruction. So those are the major themes. Now at the end, we always talk about what a healthy expression of Aquarius Svamsa, the result of it is by looking at the planets that are exalted and debilitated in the sign. So So Aquarius has no planets that are exalted in it, and it has no planets that are debilitated in it. But we'll look at Saturn and the Sun. Saturn is called Mula Trikona. It's where Saturn sources its strength, so it's actually stronger in Aquarius, Saturn is, than it is in Capricorn. And we'll look at the Sun because the Sun is essentially Saturn's number one enemy, and how a negative Aquarius Svamsa will behave. So a Mula Trikona Saturn is someone that's able to withstand the winds of life and able to not get pushed around by changing social trends, someone that can adapt well to social trends, but still maintain a long, steady course throughout their life that has a long-term vision. Saturn is an air planet, and it does well at adapting to things, and of course in its own air sign, so we have double air. But Saturn is a planet of firmness and foundation, and it has the result of a person being able to change slowly over a period of time in a healthy direction, or can be an unhealthy, but the slow changes of time over time. So a healthy Aquarius Svamsa is someone that's able to do the tough things, to make the tough changes that need to be changed, and is not going to do that and complain about hardships going through life. They're going to take hardships in stride and see the bigger picture going on, and be able to contribute to the greater whole of society without necessarily expecting a big reward at the end of it or receiving a prize. They don't do it for that. They do it because it is the right thing to do, and it's a practical thing to do, and it just makes sense to do, and they're willing to take on their role with pleasure, and even if that role is difficult. So a healthy Aquarius Svamsa is a person that is realistic and grounded, and when they're looking at their insecurities, the things that they're not good at, and they're not allowing insecurities to define them. We all have them, but a healthy Aquarius Svamsa and a healthy Saturn in Aquarius is a person that is able to overcome insecurities, and to not say that this is going to become my obsession. Like, I've got to improve this one thing that I'm not good at. They'll be able to push those things aside and focus on something else. So it's how well you're able to handle insecurities, and just being realistic and practical about them, and accepting of oneself and the flaws that you have in yourself. And another theme is being content with your place in society, and content and proud of where you fall in the group dynamic, and not desiring more attention than is necessary. Saturn is the planet of the common worker. So a healthy expression of a Saturn is being able to do your job well and not seek attention from other people, not seek attention for the sake of attention. Receiving validation is important. Your boss telling you did a good job, or having other people you tell you do a good job, is a healthy way to say, okay, I'm doing something right, I'm going to keep doing it. That's healthy. Seeking attention for attention's sake is a person that wants to be seen as special. A healthy Saturn doesn't see themselves as special. They like to be seen as useful. And the last part is a less is more attitude. So Saturn, a healthy Saturn in Aquarius, it can be, or a healthy Aquarius Svamsa is a person that can use what's at their disposal. As I said, the conservation attitude, being able to only use what's necessary and not have to feel like they need excessive amounts of anything in life. Having a healthy amount of limitation. I don't need more than that. I can get by with this and feel content. And that comes back with having a union with nature and being able to see that whatever resources are at your disposal, there's no need to take more than what you need personally. So that's a nice healthy way of looking at the world, that, I don't need to put that much. I only need to make this slight adjustment. Less is more. And not putting too many pressures on your own back. Saturn is the planet of burdens. And so not putting too much on your back and not going into excess, as I was really saying about how beating yourself up that leads to depression. It's too much. A healthy Saturn is able to let let the water roll off your back like a duck, and just let the problems go away as they go away. Do a little bit less, and you'll see the problems kind of resolve themselves when you don't try to force yourself onto them. So handling problems and dealing with life's difficulties in that way, less is more. So then we have the sun. The sun is, it's an enemy of Saturn. Saturn's an enemy of the sun as well. And the sun won't always be terrible in Aquarius in the sense that it's heavily burdened. But what the sun is our own sense of a unique individuality that seeks to thrive as a unique self, a unique individual. It's all about how we see how we're different and be able to identify the part of us that never changes and be able to live out that divinely inspired ability to do good in the world and make the world a better place. Well, when the sun's in Aquarius, a person loses their that sense of uniqueness and that sense of personal identity within the group context. So these people can put a lot of emphasis about feeling good about being themselves through the medium of other people. And these people can be very altruistically thinking. They see how helping other people helps themselves, and they can have a big visions for humanity to improve. But the difficulty for them is that they can shine away from the spotlight when it's necessary for them to, say, take the spotlight, or they'll have a kind of a lack of confidence, so they need the group to help instill inner confidence in them, and it can lead to sometimes being overly conformist. And so it's everything I've been saying in this video about being able to accept the parts of your personality that need work and your weaknesses, but not to try to disguise the need to do that in doubts and seeking other people's approval for that. So the sun, an unhealthy Aquarius Svamsa is similar to the sun in that, the sun in Aquarius in that you don't want to not take credit where credit is due. You want to be able to look at yourself as a unique individual who can do things for themselves when it's necessary. It doesn't always have to be about the other group, about being a community member. Build your own world up in a healthy way. Don't self-sacrifice for the group. You'll end up getting walked all over and then feeling even worse than you started. People that get taken advantage of because they don't think enough for themselves, or they don't do things enough for themselves and what they need, at the risk of being ostracized from the group. So maintaining that you have a strong sense of duty towards your own life and not losing yourself in the winds of social interactions that are always changing. So that's what a weaker Aquarius challenge would be, a weaker Aquarius Svamsa challenge would be. So that's Aquarius Svamsa. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And the next video, we're finally at the end of the zodiac, the Pisces Svamsa. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening.